Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome along to what is certainly outside my window at least a wet and windy Wednesday evening. You're joining me, John Wright and Michael Hamlet for the SOP EVO Challenge hosted by by SimGrid. Sorry, I do apologise. As I say, we're live here tonight for the SOP event. It's the 4-week EVO Challenge, which will feature the brand new to console at least. They've been on PC for a while, so these guys have had their hands, so we'll be expecting great things from them. They are, of course, in the Ferrari 488 EVO and the Mercedes AMG EVO. As I say, it will be a 4-week championship, and we are opening this week at Misano, an absolutely unbelievable Italian circuit, just over 2.5 miles long, and one of my absolute favourites to drive, an extremely tricky track to drive. And there we go. Oh, that's popped up as well. So as I say, joining me tonight, we have a very special guest as well. Like I said, we are being graciously hosted tonight by the SimGrid, and we have Mr. SimGrid himself joining me tonight, Michael Hamlet. How are we doing this evening, Michael?
Hello, John. Good evening. Thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to this event and to this series. You guys at SOP have done fantastic work on the console, and it's been your first venture into the PC world with ACC. I'm really happy that we can host this for you guys, and really excited to see the action on track and seeing what fantastic racing this series can bring.
Yep, it really was. And again, as you were saying, thank you to us for having you here. And indeed, we extend those thanks back to you yourself for hosting us tonight. Obviously, we're on the PC. As all our viewers will know, we are predominantly a console community with a lot of console servers. We've got a lot of console races going on the YouTube and Twitch channel, but we have a PC server, and we have tonight 32 of our finest drivers joining us to go round Misano. And as I said, they will be in the Ferrari 488 EVO, a personal favourite of mine, as many of our viewers will know. And they'll also be joined on track by the Mercedes AMG EVO 2020. We have, delightfully, a nice even split of the cars. I think we have 32 drivers that are taking part tonight, and we have, I think, a pretty even split down the middle, so we're going to see some unbelievable on-track action tonight. So I hope you're looking forward to what we've got on offer. As I say, we are at Misano, of course, in Italy. It is 2.6 miles long. It was built in 1972. It first came into conception in 1969, in fact, and did hold a couple of races there, but it did officially open in 1972. When it initially opened, it was only 2.1 miles long. And as we're having a look at the track just past the start-finish straight, that right-hander that you take, that in fact take you into Sector 2 immediately. So the track was extended entirely in Sector 1. As we say, it's the Misano World Circuit. It is in the Adriatica in Italy, so they're certainly enjoying much better weather than we are here, that is for sure. As I say, we've got 32 drivers on track, and they are driving the Mercedes. We have got a little fact file we're going to bring up about the Ferrari and the Mercedes, so we'll have a quick look at them as we're looking at the track. As I say, so the Ferrari, this is the EVO 2020 that the drivers are driving this evening, which has been improved massively, much like its Mercedes brother. And what they've done, there we go, we've got some guys on track. Fabulous, and there we go, our first shot of the Ferrari. Absolutely stunning car. Not completely overhauled by the designers. They made changes to the front bumpers, they made changes to the lights, and they made changes to the aerodynamics overall, increasing the size of the vents on the rear wing, and even changing, so going so far as to tapering the doors to give the car more efficiency and channel air through the lateral flows that lead into the front splitter. They also completely overhauled, some feel to its detriment, the traction control and ECU fuel mapping system. It now has a system much like the Porsche, which is far more complicated, and it's not quite as simple as just pop it into fuel track 1 and away we go. The fitted carbon fibre clutch and a whole lot of other goodies to it as well. And what we can do now, actually, we're going to jump on board for a hot lap in the Ferrari. The lap has been provided by Gregor Schill. Here we see him coming along the start-finish straight. He's going to brake, he's going to straddle the curves here, brake just before the 50. Look to catch some curb on the right here. Keep the car in the middle of the track and make sure he gets plenty of curb here. You can't put too much steering input as you come round this right-hander. Really even pressure on the accelerator to bring you into what is effectively a hairpin meets a chicane. As you come round here again, careful not to oversteer and not to be too aggressive on the accelerator. Very, very easy to run wide here as you come onto the straight, and that really would be problematic because this is one of the fastest parts of the track, coming into the very heavy braking zone of Curva Quervica. As he comes down this left hand, almost like hairpin, comes into the part of the track which quite frankly terrifies me as you come into this double braking zone. Heavy brake here, try and keep the car straight and flat. Another brake, tight, keep it on the curb as you come onto the Curvone, which is most certainly the fastest part of the track, and we can expect to see some serious action and overtaking as we come into the braking zone. As you can see, flat out through the first kink. Just as you get to this kink here, heavy on the brakes, tight right hand turn in, catch some curb on the left, heavy brake round this hairpin as we come into the last corner and then into the Curva Misano. Again, catching plenty curb. So this is a curb with the track limits can absolutely be abused in no uncertain terms, as you see there riding the last curve and coming round. So an unbelievable lap there from Gregor, 1 minute 41, and we could well see times in that region tonight from these guys. As I said, we've got 32 guys on track for you this evening, and Mike, this is an unbelievable track. I've raced it myself, and there's certainly more than one place you can overtake here. That Curvone, as I was pointing out, with that heavy braking zone, will definitely be one to watch for.
Yeah, indeed. This track, it's all about the flow. You touched upon it during the hot lap. It's so easy to invalidate your laps here, which could be a problem in qualifying. If you keep invalidating, then you may end up starting at the back of the grid, and during the race we see it inevitably every single time we host a race here at Misano, whether it be in a league or in daily racing, drive-throughs because of too many track limits. It's so easy to make cuts here. To extract the lap times, you have to really push the limits of the curbs, but you get it wrong by a millimetre, and there you go, that's one track limit, and as soon as you hit the fourth, that's your drive-through. It's a long pit lane here as well, so these drive-throughs, they're a big loss if you get them. But this track, it really does promote some fantastic side-by-side action, the hard braking zones into the hairpins, very inviting for a dive and a lunge. But this track always provides some really close and fantastic battles, 100%.
Yeah, and as you said, those heavy braking zones, as we talked in the hot lap, of course, the Curva del Rio, which I declare is clearly a hairpin meets a chicane. Going into that's again, when we say the heavy braking zones, these corners, a lot of them have got two lines that you can take into them. Certainly coming along that long back straight, that long fast back straight, that Curvone. You can take a very tight line and hit the right curb, but if you're side by side with someone, you can easily brake a bit earlier and take that outside line and give your inside man a real headache and a question to answer almost as you come in to the Curva del Caro at the end of the lap. So yeah, I'm expecting to see some unbelievably phenomenal racing tonight. Like I say, we've got 32 cars on track. I personally have never had the pleasure of commentating on so many cars before, so I'm really looking forward to this. I hope you guys at home are too. You are indeed joining us for SOP Motorsports EVO Challenge. It is a 4-week challenge that we are running in the EVOs. That's right, the Ferrari EVO 2020 and the Mercedes AMG 2020 are the cars of choice, and we will be running 4 tracks. I believe of a slide we can pop that up and show you exactly which tracks we're running. They are the nice historic tracks. You've got to love these. We do indeed have Misano. We're starting at Misano. We've got the Nürburgring also. We have here we go, Misano World Circuit. Where is my list? I've got that many things open and I'm not even charged at the moment. So yeah, we've got another 2 tracks. What are the other 2 tracks? What have I done with my track list, Bailey? He does send me these things. There we go.
You mean Monza and
No.
Imola, John?
Monza and Imola. Yes, thank you, Michael. Honestly, Pat, for some reason my PDF folders are now not open. Anyone that's a regular on the show will know if I don't have some kind of technological disaster during the programme, then I'm not trying. So there we go. Just to show you, I'm giving it all my best tonight with R. We've got guys in the chat as well. We're looking at the cars coming out. Look at that procession of precision engineering. Absolutely cannot argue with that. And let's face it, you would love some of that weather in your front garden right now. Who have we got in the chat though? We've got Ionic Cosmin. Hello, how are you? Kylo, thank you very much for tuning in. Wright. Hello, how we doing? Baggy, how's it going, bud? Jealous indeed, mate. How beautiful does this look, by the way? That guitar dude, good evening. Bailey Smith is in the house. D. Lewis in the house as well. Jimmy Home, good evening. 90, how are you? Racer Sims in. Go on, John. Fantastic commentary. Oh, you're only saying that because you mean it. There we go, John. Full of facts tonight. There we go. Stefan Van Hal, how you doing, bud? Thank you very much for joining in. For some reason, I'm not seeing all the chat. That's better. There we go. So now we can see everybody. So yeah, guys, how you all doing? Bailey's having a little tear himself. I did find it there, Bailey. Sorry, it's my email that's causing the issue there. The eternal Merc versus Ferrari, brought here in ACC in glorious HD. It certainly is, Ionic Cousin, and ACC is definitely what we do here at SOP Motorsport, and most certainly what they do at SimGrid as well. Can't thank them enough for hosting this event for us tonight. As you know, we normally broadcast on the PlayStation, but we do have many a happy and contented console driver that are looking to show off their wares to you, the viewing public, and here they are tonight. And as I say, if you look at that grid, there is a fantastic mix of the cars. There is, for some reason, Michael, I'm confused by this, but there seems to be more Mercedes than Ferrari. Have the drivers gone mad?
It's possible. I mean,
it's quite possible. It's either that or I'm mad.
To either one, so
right, okay.
If it was up to me, I wouldn't choose either. But
so what is Michael's preferred car of choice on ACC?
It changes every week. It depends what you're asking. If you asked me a while ago, it'd be the Lamborghini. If you ask me now, it'd be the McLaren. If you ask me another time, it would be something else. I'm always changing my mind.
Right.
I think if I had to choose a car to be racing in this championship, personally, for me, I would be going Mercedes.
Blasphemy.
But that's purely on the basis that, as much as I like the Ferrari, I've never been able to get the lap times out of it that I know that others, and I know that car can do. Whereas the Mercedes, I can be a little bit quicker. So if I wanted to be competitive, then in this series, personally, I would be going Mercedes. But I expect to see the Ferrari's top dog here in this qualifying, and I expect from the drivers I know who are participating in this anyway, I expect to see the Italian Luca Tavanari near the top of the sheet, and Samir Foch. I reckon he could be up there as well. But these are two guys who drive the Ferrari a lot. They know this car very, very well, and Luca is always racing in the top split of the SimGrid's content. He's the one I'm putting my money on today, Luca Tavanari.
Hi, okay, well there you go, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it here first from Mr. SimGrid himself. I have to admit, there are, I think, 2 or 3 drivers perhaps. Stefan that's just said hi in the chat is in fact racing, and I do know the number 14, Horace Solcrum, is actually a good friend of mine, otherwise known as Homeschool Racer. That is a very clever acronym. It's not shortened his name, it's an anagram of his name. So he is racing tonight. So I'm completely in the dark as to these drivers, so I'm looking forward to being entertained. But Simon himself, of course, founder of GZR back in the day, competitively raced on Project Cars 2, even won himself a cheeky championship, which he keeps to himself. Now runs the SimGrid, still takes part in daily races, and is a far more competitive driver than I, so definitely handy to have him alongside me tonight to get some technical and actual useful advice other than my incessant ramblings. Speaking of incessant ramblings, did someone mention the Ferrari? I'm sure someone mentioned the Ferrari. You're right, the Ferrari EVO 2020 is one of the cars that will be driving tonight. Of course, as I mentioned, the car is the 2020 version, so it has recently been overhauled for the new season. It wasn't completely overhauled, sorry. Neither car was completely overhauled. They just went back to basics and made little tweaks. As I mentioned, the Ferrari got a brand new front bumper, which gave it smaller lights, which added some flicks to the front, which gives it a bit more downforce and a bit more turn-in, helps the aerodynamics. They changed the doors. They also overhauled the traction and ABS system, which they felt was compromised in the last car. The hub, of course, stuck with the twin-turbo V8, which sits at a 90-degree angle between the cylinder banks, but they haven't modified any of the components. They've simply tried to make things a bit lighter. They've even managed to save 2.4 kilograms using lighter yet safer safety belts and buckles. So it just shows you the level of detail that these guys can go into. Of course, the other car that is featuring tonight is the Mercedes AMG GT3 EVO. It is, of course, a 6-speed sequential, and again, they made some changes to the aero, but they looked more at the traction system and changed that massively. Completely re-looked at that. And one of the other things that they did, strangely, just shows you how efficient the Germans are. I bet you they didn't think of this for Ferrari. One of the biggest changes, because a lot of gentleman drivers like the Mercedes, because it's so planted. Let's face it, it's the size of the Titanic, so when you throw that thing in a corner, it stays where it's supposed to be. One of the big problems that we're having was, believe it or not, the seat and cooling your poor little head when it's in that race helmet inside the car. So one of the biggest and most significant and costly changes that AMG made to the car were the seat and the head cooling system that they use. So there you go. It just goes to show you, it's not always about making the cars quicker, faster, prettier or louder. They do occasionally think of the drivers as well. So, but I can assure you, the guys that are at home racing on these will definitely be, hopefully, in comfy seats. We do have an hour of racing. We're 7 minutes into qualifying, and we're starting to see a few times pop up onto the board. A few guys running off. We've got 25 other cars that have set a time so far, and at the moment Mercedes are absolutely dominating. Obviously we've got a few guys still to set times, but oh no, it's just been updated and bang, Ferrari, 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 and as Michael mentioned, a couple of those names very quickly appearing up at the top there with SOP less than 8 tenths off of a 1:33.5. So that is a very, very, very decent time at the moment. And I'm not sure if we'll see much faster than that, but we do still have several guys to set times, Michael, and with 6 minutes to go, do you think we're going to see the faster times come at the end of the session, or do you think some guys are going to lay down a marker and just sit in the pits as we see?
I think the times can get quicker. How much more time Luca can find remains to be seen. It's quite a hot track, 36 degrees, so 33.5 is pretty rapid. It's quicker than I could do in these conditions. But I'm seeing a lot of greens everywhere, such as Stempel here, who's 8 tenths up. We've got Millard here. He's also 7 tenths up. So I'm looking at my deltas here, and I can see greens up and down the board. So I think we might see some quicker times coming in yet. And I said Luca Tavanari might not improve, but he's 2 tenths up as well. So we could even get down into the 32s. Who knows?
Yeah, we certainly could. And we're seeing a lot of sector 2 is definitely the closest sector between the top drivers. That seems to be a sector that all the drivers are certainly getting nailed down to the wall, and we've just seen an absolute cracking time go in. Big improvement. He's got himself right up the grid there. So yeah, Kenny absolutely nailing it. Gets himself a spot provisionally on the front row with 5 minutes to go. And as we say, the lap's 1:30, so the guys still do have time to put in another 3 laps, but it's certainly good this early in the session with a bit of time left to have that as a backup time, because let's face it, a 33.5 is certainly, and we're looking, Luca just gone 2 tenths up. Wow, so they are So I'll tell you what, Michael.
He invalidated it, so he still stays pole, but frustrating for him. I think he went a little bit wide on the final corner there, but that's exactly what we're talking about, the track limits. If that's going to catch you out, you only get 3 times to do that in the race. The 4th one's a drive-through. So here at Misano, where you can qualify first, but if you're going to make enemies of the track limits, it's not going to go well for you.
Oh, indeed, and I know myself, we actually usually on SOP Twitch's channel, we usually have a running bet to see just how many drive-through penalties we get, and Misano is certainly one that throws up endless drive-through penalties. I know myself, I'm by no means competitive when it comes to my sim racing career, but I certainly do enjoy putting the foot down, and even I've been known to fall foul as one of the safest drivers on the track. Definitely been known to fall foul of the grid. It is so easy to get yourself the track limits, and as we were saying as well, Michael, I think that's married up as well with the amount on track action. We've got 32 cars who are going to be splitting. We've got a new P2, so we absolutely do. We have Malcherek in the Ferrari, so the Ferraris really are dominating here. They really are dominating. The closest Mercedes 1.2 seconds off the lead, then a whole group of Mercedes, all very, very close. They're all 3/10 within one another before we get to another Ferrari. So there definitely seems to be little bunches. So that could be where the drivers are finding their level within the pack. But the Ferrari definitely seems to be the dominant car, as you were saying, Michael. And we've got a few guys at the top. We've still got a few guys that are running green. So with 2 minutes to go, 2.5, 3 minutes to go, this is definitely going to get a lot more interesting here at Misano. Of course, it is the SOP EVO Challenge. It's a 4-week championship. We will be running at Imola, the Nürburgring and Monza. See that? I even remember. And we've got Daniel 3/10 up, and he takes 4th place. So we have movers and shakers up near the top. You love to see this. And I tell you as well, Michael, being on pole position here might not actually be the best plan, because if I'm right in thinking, that's not the side of the track you necessarily want to be starting on to go into turn 1. You definitely want to be over to the right, I would say, to take that apex.
It's a tricky one because turn 1 and 2 are so close to one another. So whichever way you look at it, you're going to be inside on one of them and then outside on the other one, and then as you go then up towards turn 3, you don't want to be going side by side through turn 3. So you kind of my strategy is, when I race here at Misano, is to try and get through turn 1 and 2 alive, and then get single file as quickly as possible as you go through the next section, and then try, from fighting for the lead, try and get the lead back down at the hairpin or down on the back, on either of the back straights. But yeah, it's a real tricky one to defend through turn 1, 2, and 3, just because you're constantly switching inside, outside, inside, and in my experience racing here, it doesn't seem to matter whichever side I can start on. It's just about being careful, being safe, and being patient. And I approach any overtakes here in a racing situation like I do at Imola, trying to apply a patience and pressure. And I mean, what we can see at the moment in this qualifying is the Ferraris seem to be quite dominant on the qualifying pace, which is nothing new. The cars are really quick here, but the Mercedes has got pace. As you can see here, Plot's making a massive improvement into P8, but on the quali pace, the Mercedes seems to be lacking a little bit. But this Mercedes, it doesn't mean it's out for the race. I think it's there's a lot of them on the grid, and it's a very good race pace car, even if it is lacking a little bit on the qualifying pace here.
Yeah, the Mercedes definitely will be quick in the race. Like you say, when you take into race pace consideration the way tyres are used, a bit of slipstream here and there, the Mercedes is definitely going to be more than competitive going into that first turn. And yeah, the first turn, as we were saying, we were actually talking about it before the stream, how fascinating it is. It's more, the first turn I personally feel is more of a build-up corner. It's more of a setup rather than taking turn 1 itself. You don't just take turn 1 and carry on with your lap. You take turn 1 to set yourself up in the middle of the track to get that turn in for for turn 2 to make sure you don't oversteer, as I was saying on the hot lap video that we did, to make sure you don't end up making a mistake into turn 3, because if you lose momentum in turn 3 going into the Curva del Rio, you really are going to lose a lot of time on that middle straight. Oh, we've got someone else. We've got a Ferrari looking to improve.
He went up Samir Fosh, he improved into third, just missing out on the front row of the grid. But it's a lot closer to Tavanari than it was initially in the qualifying. And we've got Alex Phillips is up on his time as well, half a second up at the moment. Potentially could split that top 5, be the only Mercedes into the top 5 if he can keep the rest of the lap together. Half a second up at the moment.
Yeah, and he is coming through onto the Curvone. Oh, sorry, that's the Curva del Rio, so he's right at the end of his lap. I do apologise, it is the... Yeah, so Curva Mazzano's coming in, so he's coming in the last corner now. Was half a second up. Can he hold this? Half a second, of course, would put him, well, easily on the second row of the grid. Can he keep it together as he comes along the start-finish straight? Absolutely foot down, hanging on for everything he's got.
He breaks into the top 5.
And he does break into the top 5 onto the second row. Is that second row? Sorry, he's in 5th. He did get into 5th, so yeah, so he will start on the 3rd row. So there we go, breaks the Ferrari dominance, or partially, certainly, breaks the Ferrari dominance. But there we can see, look at Tavernari with a 1:33.505 to take pole position, just under 4 tenths ahead of Christian Malcari in second, again in a Ferrari, and Samir Foch in a Ferrari again with Kenny Mallard just behind. Again in a Ferrari, only half a second off. So these top 6 drivers separated by just under 8 tenths. And then if we look down from 7th down to 15th, there is less than 3 tenths separating those 8 drivers. The drivers behind that a mere 8 tenths off again. So this field is unbelievably close all the way through. And as we were saying, as you saw yourself there, that this track has some seriously high speed sections with some heavy braking zone, and the track has a good width. There's plenty of curb that you can cut, obviously at your own risk, because drive-through penalties are savage at this track. Let us be under absolutely no illusions here at Misano. If you fall foul, and as Michael alluded to, the pit lane is not short. You actually come onto the pit lane before you take the last turn on the Curva Misano, so you've got a gentle left hand onto the pit lane, and the pit lane is very long. If you get a drive-through, or even worse, a stop-go penalty, that could absolutely devastate your race, especially in one, I'm going to say only an hour long. An hour is still a decent length race, but if you've got a stop-go penalty or a drive-through during a race of that length, you really are going to find yourself in trouble. So these guys will be looking to keep it clean, as Michael said, keep it fair, size up your overtakes and take advantage of the slipstream and overtaking points. But as we've mentioned there, those top 20 drivers separated by less than 2 seconds. So all of them, let's face it, all of them absolutely quicker than I would be here at Misano. I've certainly tried Misano in the new Ferrari, and I can assure you I will not be disclosing the time that is set. I'm definitely a better commentator than a sim racer, I think we'll all agree. We are bringing you the SOP EVO Challenge tonight. We are lucky enough to be hosted by SimGrid. Michael, once again, thank you very much for having SOP here, letting our drivers show their wares to the world. We will have a look in the chat to see who's all there. Blaine Rage, this is Posh John. Blaine Rage, this is Posh John. This is Panicked John. This is John. No, you're fine, you're fine. Thanks for tuning in. At least you won't have to listen to Bailey, but just make sure he's well stocked up on fruit shoots. Guatam Thiagaran. Cool Red, hello, thank you. I'm not sure if that's English, but yeah, I'll try my best. Baggy, yep, Baggy, well spotted. There was an indigo lime racing colour there. So, yep, very good colours. Is AJ in the race? Is that AJ in the race? So I apologise, it turns out I know one of the drivers. So there we go, AJ's in the race. So hi everybody in the chat, we hope you're enjoying it. Paul Venter, it is Mr. Raven, how you doing? Thanks very much for tuning in. Finn Smith, hello, how you doing? Paul Venter again. So yeah, say hi in the chat guys. LNR Metal Panda, hello. He's cheering for Sean, but who are you guys cheering on? Who do we think is going to win? We've got a minute left before the start, so the drivers will be sorting out their fuel strategy, sorting out their tyre pressures, making those little last adjustments as we'll look along this grid. Look at this unbelievable lineup here, Michael. What a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful procession this is of precision engineering about to take off from the line here.
Indeed, fantastic camera work by our broadcaster Mike Yao. Does a fantastic job with all our broadcasts, and it's amazing how diverse a grid can look, despite the fact you've only got 2 different manufacturers on the grid.
It really is.
Be like a trio of yellow Mercedes.
Yeah. They definitely, could have been a bit more imaginative, some of them, but no, definitely there's an absolute plethora, a cornucopia of colours being displayed for our eyes. And yeah, you're right, Mike is unbelievably fantastic. It's the technology that man's got. Wow. Could launch NASA, I believe. It's certainly a lot more technology than they've got in these cars, but it is these cars that we are concentrating on tonight. We do have the Ferrari and AMG EVO face-off. It's Superman versus the Flash. Who will come out on top tonight? Give us a shout in the chat. Let us know that you're there. Who do we think's going to win tonight? Is it going to be... Oh, Paul's Rainmeister. Paul, of course. How are you doing? How are you doing, bud? Good to see you here. Good to see you. Let us know in the chat, who do we think's going to win? Is it going to be Ferrari? Is it going to be AMG? How's the podium going to look? Is it going to be all Ferrari? Is it going to be mixed up? Or is it a driver you're predicting? Paul has thrown... sorry, not Paul. Michael has thrown his hat in the ring and given us a couple of drivers to watch as they take off on their warm-up lap round this 34-degree track, so their tyres will be warm and kept warm very, very quickly. I can assure you there will be many an open brake duct on these cars to keep the tyres cool and smooth and round.
I'm pretty pleased with my prediction, I have to tell you, John. I called out 2 names and they're in 1st and 3rd, so as long as they could be there at the end of the race, then I'd have done good with my prediction.
I think so too, and I think as soon as the stream's finished, what we'll do is we'll get you to pick 6 numbers. I'll chuck them on a lottery ticket, and we'll see how we got on, and we'll see how your powers of prediction.
I've been playing that for about 10 years, mate, and I've still never won. I wouldn't trust me.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping you could turn my fortunes around on that particular game, but it seems not. It seems not.
I'll stick to race predictions. I seem to get relatively close with that. But you know, we touched upon it. You know, that in racing, anything can happen at any track. This is a track where, you know, if things go wrong for you in whatever capacity, whether that be you get hit or you have track limits and drive-throughs and things. If you end up having to try and fight your way back through the grid, it can be quite easy to get stuck in traffic here. It's a fantastic place to battle, but it's not easy to complete overtakes here. You see a lot of switchbacks, inside outside, but actually getting the move done at a track here like Mazzano, like other Italian tracks like Imola, for example, it is difficult, and Luca Tavanari, he's shown in the qualifying he's got the pace to go off and win, but having the pace to go and do it and actually doing it is a completely different story.
It definitely is. As you say, making the move is one thing, making it stick, that is an entirely different art form. That to me, quite frankly, is hoodoo. But there are people out there that are more than capable of doing it. We are watching the guys come around the very last corner. They will be hovering at 43 kilometres an hour with their foot half on the accelerator coming around. 32 cars in the grid. Taverni is in first with Malcherek in second. They're about to cross the line. Green flags, foot down, flat out, and away they go, and they're instantly going 3 wide. It's Ferrari, it's a whole lot of Ferraris. Potentially 3 wide into turn 1. They've gone 2 wide. Very respectable. Have a bit of contact with some Mercedes in the back. We can see them at turn 1 and a couple. Oh, and up the front there's a bit of contact between the 2 lead Ferraris, the 46 and 11 car. Taverni and Malkacek saying hello to one another early doors. There's Foch is in the background as well, and Merlardi is making a push too, but Phillips in the solitary Mercedes in the top 5, absolutely challenging for position, and Omar already has picked up a drive-through penalty. We're not even 1 lap in, and already We've got a drive-through penalty, so this is interesting stuff. Jay Plotz is up to first with Jones in second and Egan in first for the time. So there's been change all over. Tavernier, it finds himself back in first. Forge in second.
Marcus has moved up to second now.
Forge has moved up to second.
My two predictions, 1-2 at the moment.
Yeah, and the two of them are looking very, very good. And I'll tell you else is looking very good is Phillips in the Mercedes. He may have qualified in fifth, but he has taken absolutely no time whatsoever in getting himself up into fourth. And they will come along this back straight with a foot down. And I'll tell you what, these guys will be close enough for moves to be made into the braking zone that we were talking about. In the first lap, we're going to get to see some action and think, oh, a bit of a wiggle on the Mercedes. Lost the back end, so he's lost a lot of momentum coming into this hairpin. He's absolutely going to get done up the inside. But there we go, the switch back. Can you make the move? Yes. Can you make it stick? We will find out as they come round the last corner, side by side. The Mercedes takes a full advantage, gets himself back in front after taking full advantage of the track width there. He's back up in front, but the Mercedes is still firmly parked, the Ferrari, sorry, still firmly parked under his rear spoiler, so he'll be looking to get another move done. And right down the field, the guys are still unbelievably close to one another. This is absolutely incredible stuff. Tavernier, though, as we were saying about the pace, finds himself 7/10 up the road with Fox in second, Malcherek in third, Phillips is in fourth again in his Mercedes. He's got the move done once again, and Jose Georges is in fifth in the Ferrari 777 with Malardi in sixth and Avenusa in seventh. I'm actually just having a quick look for Horace Solcrom, good friend of mine. He is racing tonight in the Ferrari number 48. He's made up to 16th. Come on, Horace, you can do it, son. But we are, of course, on board with Jose Georges, who is finding himself in a battle eternal already with Phillips in the Mercedes. And I'll tell you what, these two guys are absolutely going to be going at it hammer and tong by the look of it. We're going to jump on board for a quick replay of the start, and as we can see, the front 5-6 drivers got away unbelievably cleanly. You see the Mercedes just got concertina on. Oh, there we go. So it was a driver from 10th there, caused a bit of a concertina effect there, Michael, and it was a 4-driver pile-up for our Mercedes drivers there in, as we predicted, turn 1.
Yeah, so all those yellows Mercedes, I think they're so bright in yellow, they're all blinding each other going into the first turn. But that's just a perfect case of point of you know how concertina effect going into a tight turn such as turn 1 and 2 here at Misano can just roll back throughout the grid, and it can cause a little bit of contact and cause the car to spin out. And that's an absolute cracker there. Yeah, we'll call that the whoop-de-whoop.
That was on Egan. That was on Egan. That was. He did look like he lost control there, had a wiggle and double tapped the cars either side of him, and that has certainly put paid to his position in the race. As we said earlier, this track for track limits, you do need to run them to the edge if you want a fast lap. You can be forced out onto them quite fairly by your competitors when you're trying to put in overtakes. And as we talk about overtakes, Georgie is looking like he's wanting to do an overtaking the Ferrari. Omar has already fallen foul of the drive-through. He will of course have 3 laps to complete his drive-through penalty, so early doors, only 5 minutes into the race, and he is going to find himself with an absolute mountain to climb going into this. His only saving grace, I would say, is the fact that the cars, as we can see, this beautiful possession, highlighting my next point beautifully, is the cars are still very, very, very close together in nice big bunches and groups of anything from 6 to 8 cars. So the slipstream and the braking, as we see the 2 Mercedes there, he had a look, so he did, at the outside. Battenberg then runs wide, goes round the outside of the Mercedes, kits it back on track, still looking to go round the outside. He's going to have the inside line coming into the left-hander before they come into the cover of Misano, and the Mercedes yields the place. The Ferrari takes off and finds himself with a whole rear view mirror of Mercedes. And did that Mercedes just duck into the pits there, Michael? He did. So we've got a Mercedes taking a pit stop. I believe that was, yes, it was Babulal. So there we go, he's taken his mandatory pit stop very, very, very early indeed. So we'll see how that works out for him. We're on board, more unbelievable camera work here. We're on board with the back spoiler of Battenberg on his Ferrari. He's got Buck all over him in the Mercedes number 22, and as you can see in the background there, we've got a nice little group of 4 cars there all waiting £2 and make their move. So fantastically close racing. 3 laps in, these guys absolutely putting a show on for us here at SOP Motorsport for the EVO Challenge. Opening round, Mazzano, hosted of course by SimGrid. Michael, the man in the box tonight, and our cameraman doing fantastic work, Mike, in the background. It's been a great opening so far, Michael, and these drivers promising to put on an unbelievable show for the next 54 minutes.
Indeed, we can see in the mid-pack that some of the cars are still quite close together, and I saw that in qualifying as well. They were a little bit off the pace of the leader, Luca Tavanari, but they were very, very close in lap times to themselves, that big group of Mercedes. Luca Tavanari looks like he's starting to check out at the front. The gap was 1.5 seconds about a lap or two ago. Now that's approaching 3 seconds. So Luca Tavanari is starting to check out at the front, but it's still very close. Maltrek chasing down Samir Foch for P2, and then we see, as I mentioned, all those Mercedes in the mid-pack, all very, very close together, struggling to pull away from one another.
Yeah, well, we did see, as you mentioned, in qualifying, like you say, the top 5 or 6 guys were very close, but then from 7th down to 15th, there was only 0.3 of a second separating those guys, and that was perfectly highlighted there. We jumped on board, of course, with Horace Solcrom, otherwise known as Homeschool Racer, in his Ferrari, and we saw how close that little group of Ferraris is. So we're seeing it play out almost, well, not almost. We've got 3 Ferraris, a Mercedes, a Ferrari, and we've got a bunch of Mercedes, some Ferraris, some Mercedes. So the cars are certainly finding themselves a little pack. So I think massive credit's got to go to Phillips here, who is obviously outperforming, given how well, as we see him move up the inside from Stempel. Can he make it stick? He absolutely gets it done, does he though? Will Solcrom get the move done back in as they come into this double right-hander? He goes up the inside. Oh, he's had a lock up. That front right absolutely locked up. I think that was a bit of a panic steer there. Avoided contact, and he's not only he's avoided contact, he's avoided taking that place, and he's going to find himself very much in the clutches of O'Neill and Mayer, and Gantus behind him. That is a Ferrari, Mercedes, Ferrari entourage that Buck and Holcomb have behind them. We're looking dual screen as well here. I'm loving this camera work. This is epic stuff. As we're watching this battle come through, Holcomb then is going to have a bit of a flat spot on his front right tyre. Of that there is no mistake, and that's going to be something he's going to want to fix sooner rather than later. But he is catching up right onto the back again, and that little pack is closing on the back again. So Stempel's by no means got himself any type of breathing space at the moment. We're watching King and Mage as well in the number 9 Mercedes. He's got himself in the middle of a Mercedes Ferrari sandwich with Mark Hole and Blattenberg in the Ferrari behind him as they come round the tight left-hander that will take them onto the straight into the Curva del Caro. So we'll see if these guys can put on. As we're looking down the timing belts here, we can see Malchirek is only half a second off of Foch for 2nd place. We've got Millard, who's only half a second off Phillips for 5th. We've got Mage, as we can see, he's only half a second off of Battenberg, half a second off the back. And we've got Zeed, Solcrom, Meyer and O'Neill with this little group in 15th through to 18th who are promising to put on an epic little battle in the midfield. And if we'll have a look down the timing belt as well, who was it? Sorry, let me just check that we did have a driver come in and take an early pit stop, so it will be interesting to see where exactly he's come out.
That was Babalau who took a pit stop, but whatever they did didn't count as mandatory, so the mandatory pit stop hasn't cleared.
Oh, so it hasn't cleared, so he's back in 28, so his mandatory hasn't cleared. Oof.
Which means it didn't change tyres.
Yeah, so he's missed the mandatory requirement there. So yeah, to say that's a bold strategy, I can't see that working out. So I think he's consigned himself. So at least our young lad that got the drive-through penalty, and Omar's been disqualified. We have a disqualification. Wow, so there we go. So Omar has fallen foul of the track limits to a massive extent there, only 6 laps in, to find himself disqualified.
I think that might have been not serving a drive-through, possibly.
Of course.
I don't remember him serving it. So
no,
my guess is he didn't serve his drive-through, and therefore the game automatically.
Yeah, well that is, we're going to have to call that a bit of a rookie mistake there. It does flash up on your screen, it has to be said. It does pop up and say, and give you warning you have to. As you see the move up the inside then, Hake falls foul to Egan in the Indigo Line Mercedes, and that is an absolutely cracking move in Curva del Rio to get that done. So he is looking absolutely fantastic there. Made a mistake earlier, involved in a bit of argy-bargy in a three-wide situation, but looking to put that in the past and get himself back up the pack. So he makes a move there in his Indigo Line colours. Of course, we've got a few of the Indigo Line guys in the chat, baggies in there. Safe to say AJ taken to the PC like a duck to water, so that is AJ that is driving. There we go. Who else have we got in the chat? Racer Sim, the Pineapple Merc from Sam, very nice. Jack Gantus, welcome to the chat. Quick Start Engineering, welcome to the chat as well. Michael Wilson, hello to you too. And Otto von Flendermaus. Now that, my friend, is an absolutely cracking handle, and I'm guessing that you are supporting the Mercedes this evening. So welcome along. It is of course SOP Motorsports Wednesday Night EVO Challenge on PC. We've migrated, we are still of course doing the console thing, but we've jumped over to PC to showcase some of our PC drivers for you tonight, and they're being showcased beautifully by Mike in the background. Look at this camera here, unbelievable work on board with Millard, and I'm joined by Mr. Simgrid himself. Michael has graciously joined me in the comms booth tonight to talk all things technical and perhaps try and rein me in occasionally, as we see Millard a bit late on the brakes there, almost paying a visit into the back seat of the Mercedes in front of him there. Manages to avoid contact with Phillips, who is back down to 5th. So Phillips has found himself losing the play. He did start in 5th, he got himself up to 4th, but it would appear he has been overtaken again by Jose Georges, who's up in 4th. So it is a very strong showing from the Ferraris up front with Tavernier. He's dropped off a bit actually. He was 2.3 seconds ahead of Foch. He now finds himself a second and a half, and Foch himself has got all kinds of problems, and there's a big contact there between Phillips and Millard. Oh, and there we go, we almost got a Venusa getting joined in there. Astra Buraga is going to drive through there as well, so that's a couple of places at least those guys are going to lose. So Phillips there involved in a lot of coming together.
Miscalculation by Millard to me. That looked like a big miscalculation. You touched upon it before about Phillips. He made a good start getting up into 4th. He then started to drop back a bit. Jose Georges was stuck behind him for a lap or two, but Jose is flying right now. He's got right up onto the back of Maltarek and Foch, and just there, just at the mirror, Jose trying to go a little move down the inside into the hairpin. But you've got a 3-car battle for P2 now, and the gap that Luca Tavanari had, it was nearly 3 seconds. It's back down to 1.6 now. So Tavanari maybe reining it in a little bit. It doesn't need to push a great deal, and strategically this could be great for Luca Tavanari if Foch, Maltarek and Jose Georges get into a 3-way battle. The gap to Luca Tavanari is just going to open up without Luca having to do a thing.
It really is. He will be rubbing his hands together. He will see the timing data that we can see. He will see how close his 3 competitors, or his 3 closest competitors, are behind him. And yeah, like you say, these 3 Ferraris battling will simply be music to his eyes and ears as he tries to keep the lead. And as you say, he was almost 3 seconds ahead. He has perhaps backed off slightly. Definitely going to save tyres, save himself a bit of fuel as we see him move. Oh, he had a look there. Yeah, Maltarek then popping his nose out, giving Foch the decision. I'm going to have a look. Did he move? Foch stalwart in his approach to turn 1. But now we see Maltarek has given up the ghost. So Jose Georges, who got the move done on Phillips, absolutely 2 of them go side by side in the Curva del Rio. The slightest of contact, and he tell you what, he's got the move done up the inside and then round onto the apex. That is unbelievable moves there, and he's got the move done to such an extent that he's shaking off the slipstream already. So going into this braking zone, Maltarek will certainly have a chance to nibble back, but I tell you, Georges is absolutely showing some blistering race pace here. He's dispatched the Phillips in the Mercedes, he's dispatched the Maltarek in the Ferrari, and he will be hunting down Foch at an astonishing pace. And Foch himself needs to get his finger out because he is now dropping off. So Tavernier has decided he doesn't want any of what's going on behind him. He's stretched his lead back out now to 2.4 seconds. So the battle, and Ivan Nusa, sorry, yes, so Ivan Nusa is up to 5th, Aston Berger in 6th, with Millard in 7th, Holes in 8th, Phillips in 9th, and King Mage is making up the top 10. We do have fantastic battles though all over the pitch. We've got Ziege in the Ferrari, who's chasing down Stempel. Solkrum, of course, was in 16th. He's been overtaken by Meyer, who finds himself in 16th now, with Ziege in 15th and Stempel up into 14th. So these guys still battling hard in the middle of the field. We've got McKenna down in 23rd, a recent addition to the Discord community of SOP. He only signed up last week. This is his first ever event. He did say live on stream he would sign up to tonight's event, so well done you, mate, for taking part in your first ever event, and it being this particular one with 31 other drivers. Definitely could be a daunting experience, but he looks like he's handling it well. Lapping nicely. Phillips then, we're back on board, but in the Ferrari, qualified in the Mercedes, sorry, of course, qualified in 5th place, broke the Ferrari dominance in the top 7, involved in a bit of an incident, finds himself back down in 9th, so he's definitely got the pace to make moves, cuts himself a bit inside and catches a bit much grass there, but he did get the foot down nice and cleanly, so he will be coming into Curva del Caro, looking to make a move up the inside, and absolutely gets that nailed on. I'm going to be honest, I don't think if I was Hole there, I would be putting up too much of a fight. When you've got a driver that quick behind you, it's not often best to battle. As we see Ferraris go side by side then, Malczarek and Georgie. So Georgie's still on the move, and he has got it done. He is up to 3rd place. So Georgie's then didn't take any time at all in getting the moves done on Malczarek. And Malczarek, who's showed some decent pace himself, qualified in the top 3, now finds himself down in 4th. So it's as we were saying at the start, Michael, race pace and qualifying pace are two very, very, very different animals indeed.
They are. I mean, Georges was actually in front. That's Malczarek trying to come back at him. Jose Georges got the move done in turn 3. The lap before, Malczarek was very respectful, just letting it go. There was no need to defend it so hard. It was a very aggressive move from Jose Georges. So Malczarek just opened it up, let him go, and then, you know, Malczarek, I think he knows he's got the pace that he can get back at Jose Georges. And it's exactly what I talked about, the gap. Look at how Tavanari's just extended that gap now. While Foch, Jose Georges and Malczarek very briefly had the 3-car battle for literally half a lap, the gap went up between Tavanari and Foch by over a second. And then from Jose Georges and Malczarek now battling for the last lap or so, the gap to Foch up the road is now 1.7 seconds. Battles are great, but they cost you a lot of time.
They really do, and I'll tell you something else as well, they'll cost, as you will know, Michael, is your tyres. When you're battling with these guys in the slip, when you're battling in the slipstream, it is not kind, especially on your front tyres. Oh, as we see, a slightest bit of contact, bumper to bumper, between Aston Berger and Ivan. Is that Ivanusa that he's battling with at the moment? No, I believe it's Millard. So Aston Berger and Millard in the Ferrari and the Mercedes then battling out for 7th and 6th, but we're back on board, bonnet cam for Malczarek. Georgie's then pulls into the pits, so we were lining up a battle then, so there we go. So Jose Georges has decided to get himself some clean track early doors, get his mandatory pit stop out the way, so it'll be interesting to see where he comes back out in the field. But he could drop massively down, because if we look down the track, there is very, very, very little separating our 29 drivers that are still taking part. Sorry, 28 drivers. Of course, Omar has unfortunately been disqualified for failing to adhere to a drive-through penalty. We're on board with Jones then, who's looking to get a job done on Plots. He did find himself further up. He's dropped fairly back down at the order, but there is a tight little group here between Solkrum, Plots and Jones, looking to improve their position up into 16th. And just as we say that, there's Georges there, dropped down to 19th while he's in the pits, drops down to 20th.
He's still in the pits, so he's going to keep.
And he's still in the pits, and he's going to keep on pummeling. So
he'll be last.
He will be last. So that shows just how close these guys are. 20 minutes in. Oh, a lot of contact there. The Mercedes up the inside. Another Mercedes coming into the back. So it's Jones, Plots, and O'Neill then once again involved in some real rubbing is racing action here on ACC for the SOP Motorsport EVO event. Coming into the Curva del Rio, this is going to be an interesting one to see if the Ferrari of Solkrum tries to make the move, hangs back and decides again. So Plot will take his Mercedes into the lead to go along Corvone, followed by Plots with Jones in the background and Solcrum sniffing around in the middle. So even now, 20 laps in, we've still, sorry, 20 minutes in, not 20 laps in, 20 minutes in, we've still got this nice tight little group in the middle. And these guys have been battling since the race started, so probably not doing themselves many favours as far as tyres go, Michael, but certainly entertaining stuff for us.
It's interesting with the tyres, and I'm trying to make sense of Jose George's pit stop. In this series, they have to make a mandatory pit stop, and on that stop, they have to change tyres.
Yeah.
Being an hour race, you know you can push your tyres pretty hard because you're going to have to pit and change them anyway. You know, you'd think 2 half-an-hour stints, you can push your tyres pretty aggressively in half an hour. So for Jose George has to pit after only 20 minutes, that makes me think maybe he underfueled the car a little bit. Fueling the car only for 20 minutes worth, which might explain why he's been so quick in this opening 20 minutes or so. But what that means now is he's got to do a longer stint than everybody else potentially is going to be doing on their tyres, racing to final 40 minutes, which means his car is going to be a little bit heavier and he'll be on older tyres come the end of the race. An interesting strategy. I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah, it certainly is. Like you say, with the track temperature being the way it is, he's certainly given his opponents a massive advantage come towards the end of the race if the guys do decide to pit, because they will have obviously 10 minutes newer tyres, and with the time multiplying the track temperature the way it is, that could make a massive difference. But as you were saying, he could well have taken on less fuel to start the race, which is what was giving him such pace, because he did dispatch of Phillips and Malcherek very, very, very quickly indeed, as we see. Oh, and that's more contact there. Plots, Jones and Meyer, I believe that was. So that's Plots who's gone into the sand, unfortunately, as Meyer and Zieg go through then. So yeah, going from bad to worse for the Mercedes here, Meyer. We're jumping on board then with Aston Berger. He's in 6th. He's almost the lead Mercedes. He is just behind Ivanusa, who is our lead Mercedes at the moment. Of course, Phillips was up there and about, and he finds himself back up into 7th. So he's definitely made moves through the field to get back up, and he will be looking to get past the man we are on board with now sooner rather than later, and look to make a move and get himself back up the grid. We're having a quick replay here, as we can see the 3 Mercedes coming along into, that's the Corvone, so they are coming into the heavy braking zone. Side by side they go on the inside curve. Oh, and we're calling that I'm going to say that was the outside Mercedes there, perhaps turned in and didn't quite leave enough room there, caused a pretty big contact there on that curve, and that could certainly put paid to the aerodynamic capabilities. I'm pretty sure that's not a word. We'll have to double check that. We'll maybe need to get a referee in to double check that.
It's hard to see with that incident, but I mean that's a corner that is, I've never seen an overtake pulled off there successfully. It's a very, very, very high risk corner to try and put off any overtakes. It's one for myself. My race strategy going into that corner would, if I'm alongside, either you're going to try and play chicken and see who's going to back out first,
yep,
or you try and pressure them into a mistake. But to actually try and send it down the inside, there is very high risk strategy. It's just not worth putting it off. Whether that's what caused that collision in that aspect, it's hard to see unless you see a ton of camera angles. But just from looking at it being in that particular spot on the track, I just think don't try and make a pass there. Find another place. Just go through single file there and be safe.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, the old adage I've always used: to finish first, you must first finish, and getting these cars to the end in one piece is certainly the name of the game. So it's often better to line up and overtake. That really was a great move by Phillips there, up the inside, and there we go. That's showing how it's done. So Phillips,
that's a pure example of a safe overtake. Very good, respectful driving between Phillips and Aston Baraga, and a perfect. And there's plenty of space to make an overtake there. that's a safe place to make a pass.
Yeah, and certainly not when both cars are heavy on the brakes, unbalanced, and likely to have a contact with one another. So definitely full respect for getting that done as we see this group. So, and we're seeing it played out as we mentioned. The Ferrari, we did expect the Ferrari to be the quicker car. Tavernere, sorry, 4.3 seconds ahead now. So he is absolutely putting the foot down and he's left whole King Mage and Buck well and truly behind. As we see a Mercedes come off track there in the background. That is the number 12 car.
That's Plots. He's got heavy damage to his car. Just having a look on my screen, he's got heavy damage to his car, like
right,
from that earlier collision, and really struggling to get the car turned in on that high loaded corner. It's going straight off into the wall. It's not a good race for him.
No, really hasn't. Just going from bad to worse at the start of the EVO challenge. He'll be looking to regroup, perhaps just put this one to bed, get it safely home now. As he comes into pits. Stempel then has come into the pits as well. So 33 minutes in, we would expect to start seeing the drivers. As you said, it's a mandatory tyre change, so you would expect the drivers to be pitting around the 30-minute mark. Some of them might try and stay out to go for the old undercut. We did see one of our race leaders, Jose Georges, who was showing incredible pace at the start of the race. He is our lead driver that's pitted. He's down in 19th. So it'll be interesting to see, just as we say that, he's up to 18th. So it'll be interesting to see how far back up the field he gets himself. Will he get back into second place? There is now a massive gap forming between 8th and 9th. Between 7th and 8th. So the top 7 are pulling themselves away and leaving this little gap of 8th through 15th. So the pit stops are certainly going to bring us some interesting outcomes with 28 drivers left and 32 minutes to go. We're seeing even more and more, as we predicted, Michael. A lot of them going for the 30-30 strategy. That's Hole into the pits, and Ivanusa is into the pits as well. So it's going to be all changed very soon. So with these drivers pitting, we will see if Georges can get back up. He's looking to get a move done on track though against another Ferrari. Gantes goes up the inside and nails an absolutely beautiful move off the back of Corvone, coming into the curve of Mazzano to complete his lap to get him halfway through the race. So he is up to, absolutely fantastic move.
He's already up to 17th, or 16th now, overtaking cars in the pit lane.
Well, 15th, he's going to overtake cars.
So, and 14th, even more places gained in the pit lane. 14th place, he came out, when he did his pit stop, he came out in last. So, fantastic move up the grid. It'll just be interesting to see how this plays out once the leaders make all their pit stops, see how much time he lost and gained in the pits. Looking at the pit stop times, which I can see through RaceSync, as he had a pit stop time of 1 minute and 14 seconds. Compare that to driver Ivanusa, who's just made his pit now, and Ivanusa's pit stop was nearly 1 minute and 23 seconds. So Ivanusa's lost a lot of time in his pits. He pitted from 5th place, which could hand the advantage to Alex Phillips to take that place once he completes his pit stop and come the end of the race.
Yeah, it really could, and the pit stops from here certainly will be fascinating. Like we say, this group that's been battling since the start are now in 10th, 11th, 12th and 13th. We do have Hole, Jones and Stempel, who have pitted, who do find themselves down towards the back of the grid. But as we were just saying, as these pit stops iron themselves out, we've got Sam Su then, who's in 10th. He's come into the pits, and King Mage is into the pits as well. So Taverny then, still miles off into the lead on his own, with Foch in second place. We see Phillips overtaking a back marker there, very respectfully gets out the way, and Phillips will keep on trucking. He still does, of course, have his mandatory pit stop to take. So we've got just under half of the drivers now at the halfway stage in the race have taken their pit stops. Jose Georges, of course, the first real driver up the front of the grid to take his pit stop.
Pit, John.
Oh, and the leader has come into the pit, so Taverneri's come into the pit. So there we go. It'll be interesting to see then how close Georges gets to him. And we've got Myers coming into the pits as well, and so is O'Neill.
They're all tumbling in.
All three,
top 3 are all in the pits now, John.
As Georges then, so that's him up to 10th place. He is coming along the start-finish straight. No, he's not. He's halfway through the lap, so he is in 10th place. So he will absolutely be getting the hammer down now. Foch, who is showing as in the lead with Malcherek in the pits. Tavernere is in the pits as well, though, so it'll be interesting to see how long those guys spend in there. Astorberger then has joined them in the pits as well. Meyer and O'Neill are still in the pits, and Babulal, who did come into the pits earlier but didn't complete his mandatory requirement. So this is actually his second trip into the pits, and he's still hanging on at 23rd.
Tavernari's on the way out the box.
So that's Tavernari leaving the box. Mallardi has taken the lead with Phillips in second place at the moment. Foch then still in the pits, and Taverne is leaving the box at the moment. Georges then is coming round the Curva Mazzano at the moment, so just
this
past
is
the
be
pit
tight with
this is going to be very close. So he's coming along past the start finish. Malcherek then gets his foot down, so he is heading towards turn 2 as Georgie is coming in to turn 1.
Very close.
That is unbelievably close.
They could be almost side by side here. Oh, yeah. Georges is just behind him. He's just behind Malcherek.
Wow. So there we go. That is unbelievable stuff there from Georges. Then got his pit stop in earlier than the rest of the guys, but it's going to make it interesting because obviously now Malcherek has much fresher tyres and will do for the remainder of the race. So Georges, his tyres will be pretty worn in by now. He's got 28 minutes left to go. Although actually, sorry, they won't be pretty worn in by now. He's only done 10 minutes on them, but that does give Malcherek a massive advantage going into the last 10 minutes. And the guys ahead, so Mallardi is only just in the pits. Phillips has come into the pits as well. So the man that qualified in 5th, made up to 4th, is in 2nd place in the pits, with Ziga now in the lead on track, and Tavernere will be looking to overtake him very quickly. He's only 9 seconds behind the man that is in 3rd at the moment, so he will definitely retake the lead. As we see Sokrum, we jump on board with Sokrum, he's got Tavernere behind him, and he comes into the pits. So there's Sokrum coming into the pits as well. So a lot of action at the halfway mark. 2 laps ago, we had less than half the drivers had taken their pit stop. We now have 5 drivers left to take their pit stop. Tavernere then, we can consider the on-track leader. Ziga does have the pits, and he's only 8.5 seconds ahead. So pretty much as soon as he gets into the pit lane, Tavernere will retake the lead. Foch is in 2nd place. Mallardi is in the pits, and Malcherek, who we are on board with now, is in 5th place with Jose Georges, the absolute man on the move in this race. Closes the distance hugely under braking. Gets the foot down, does get left behind the bit, so he's coming back up to 5th place. Absolutely got himself all over the shirty tailies of Malcherek, and we'll be looking to get a move done. As we'll look at Meyer then in the Mercedes, and it's been a very dominant performance, I'm pleased to say, by the Ferraris. We'll see the Mercedes Stempel then running slightly wide there. He was involved, of course, in an incident earlier at the start of the race, then involved in another incident on the right-hander, leading into Curva del Rio, and finds himself in the middle of a battle yet again. And it's been some great driving for the track that we've got and the cars that we've got, Michael. We haven't seen, I mean, okay, we've still got 25 minutes to go, but so far I've only seen 1 drive-through penalty and a couple of minor incidents we've seen. That really is a testament to some of the driving that these guys are putting in.
Well, maybe they're not falling us foul to the track limits as I would be if I was in the car. But,
yeah.
But but I'm watching some of them. I'm just watching Jose Georges right now, and he's just gone wide and invalidated. So whether it will count as a cut and go towards his cut allocation, I don't know. But 25 minutes to go. These drivers could easily be on 2 or 3 warnings already, and we won't know until we see that DT square come next to their name. And 25 minutes, if you start getting into battles, you're going to start wanting to push as the race comes towards the end, and naturally as you start to push, you start to try and make more errors and more cuts, and therefore more risk of drive-throughs. Yeah, I would be surprised if we go the remaining 25 minutes without seeing at least one somewhere.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to chuck my hat in the ring and reckon we could get 4 or 5. Like we say, there's been a lot of battles. If we're on board with Mage here, looking to get the move done on hole in 11th to get himself potentially up into single fare. Aston of course, has had himself a pretty solid race. Venusa is up in 9th with Phillips in 8th place at the moment. He's behind Millardi and of course Lambrecht. Lambrecht still has to pit, and of course so does the man on track leading the race, but I would say he's on track leading it. Tavernier has closed the gap from 8th to 3.5 seconds as Ziga comes into the pit, so there we go. So we now have one man left to pit. Tavernier takes his rightful place back at the lead of the pack with Ziga in the pits. We can expect him to drop far, far, far away down the field when he comes out. So close is the field at the moment, especially this top 14 or 15 drivers. We've still got the battle going on in the middle of the pack between Jones, Meyer, Stempel and Solkrom, with O'Neill looking to rain on Solkrom's parade in the middle of the pack. Of course Omar was disqualified, unfortunately. We were talking about drive-through. We've got enough drive-through. Oh sorry, so you got a drive-through penalty, that's right, on the first lap. Didn't serve his drive-through penalty, has been disqualified. We haven't seen any since, but as we say, Lambrecht in the pits then. So he is the last man to take his pit. Ziga is still in the pits. He will be overtaken by quite a few drivers and find himself tumbling way down the order. We're on board with Mark Hole then in the Mercedes as we're watching behind Astra King Mage looking to get the move done. Mercedes on Mercedes action here, and that is very, very, very close. That is some fantastic control from Mage in the background there, and these two guys putting on an absolute show, looking fantastic from this rear spoiler cam as these two Mercedes come along towards the curve at Del Rio through the Caro. Hangs it in to the left. Mercedes, that's a much tighter line he's got. I tell you what, Mage is definitely looking a lot quicker around here, and he will be looking to get a single figure placement next to his name sooner rather than later. Oh, almost leaves the door open there. A very, very inviting gap left there by Hole, and Mage is saying thank you very much there. Almost gets the job done, but still in the slipstream as they come along the Corvone. Will we see a move into the braking zone? Come past the right hand kink to them flat out, about to enter the braking zone. Heavy, heavy braking as we see the gap close. Wow, and that really did close there. Fantastic control from these drivers under braking. Wow, how close did those two just get there coming into Corvozano? Bit of a wiggle then. Bit of a wiggle there from Mage, so he's going to find himself, after all that hard work in that lap, Michael, he's going to have to build that back up again. But it just shows you how hard these drivers are pushing, and yeah, definitely track limits are going to come into play, I think, sooner rather than later.
It's possible. Anything's possible. I've just been doing a bit of analysis, trying to understand this strategy from Jose Georges. It's not worked out for him at all. We saw that he pitted with only 20 minutes into the race, making a very early pit stop. His pit stop was actually very, very quick. It was actually quicker than any of the cars above him, Maltrek, Foch and Tavanari. His pit stop was quicker than all of theirs. But the time he's lost since the pit stops have been completed by the front three, he's lost out enormously. We saw that Maltrek came out the pit lane right in front of Jose Georges, literally barely any gap between them. But Jose is on tyres which are about 7 or 8 laps older than the front three, and took a couple of laps of Maltrek's tyres to get warmed up and into the correct pressures. But now they're in the window, Maltrek's just pulled right off, and Jose Georges is just stuck. He's in a great place in 4th place, but he's got no pace to move forward. He's just got to hope that Millard and Phillips don't have enough time to close down the gap. He's got 17 seconds in front of Millard, so all Jose's got to do at this point is just try and keep it clean, keep it on track, avoid any track limit cuts and drive-throughs, and barring any disaster, he should be able to hold on to a 4. But I think a podium is potentially out of the question for him now, barring any mistakes or issues for the front three.
Yeah, I would say so. He's certainly, as you were alluding to, he's certainly struggled since he came out of the pits. He is currently lapping with a pace commensurate to 8th or 9th place in Sector 1. So he's really struggling to hook it up in Sector 1, and he's losing time to everyone in Sector 2 and 3. So I think unless he steadies the ship, he could find himself with an interesting dilemma, or certainly interesting from our point of view, come the end of the race. We are of course on board with Ziga at the moment. He was one of the last drivers to pit himself, and Lambrecht took the plunge last. He's come back out in 15th place, even though he's sporting some damage on the front. Sorry, that's Meyer's Mercedes in the back sporting some damage. Of course, Meyer involved in at least 2 incidents, unfortunately, but he has held it together, got his car repaired and got himself back out to 16th. So still putting in the laps, which you'll love to see the commitment from these guys. We've got Georges, as you mentioned, is in 4th place at the moment, with Millard in 5th, Phillips in 6th, Avanuses in 7th, with Asterberger in 8th, Holes in 9th, and King Mage makes up the top 10, but he is still looking to get a move done on hole to get himself up to 9th. Taverny then 15 seconds up the road from Fort, so entirely driving his own race at his own pace and getting the job sweetly and completely done here today at Misano. 42 minutes into the race, he really has had it all his own way, with Foch in 2nd, Malcherek in 3rd, and Jose Georges with the questionable strategy finding himself down in 4th. As I mentioned, Millard and Phillips, you've got to feel for Phillips a bit. He got his Mercedes up and tried his best to wrestle the dominance on this track out of the hands of the stallion-like Ferrari. Managed to get himself up to 5th, was involved in a bit of argy-bargy. Now finds himself back down in 6th. And with everyone pitted, he will be looking to try and catch himself back up. He is putting in some pretty decent lap and sector times, but they are comparable to the guys ahead of him. So I think he is going to find it difficult to improve on the position he has at the moment. Sam Su then in 12th, all over the back of Battenberg in 11th. We've got Meyer, who's looking to overtake Ziege, who came out the pits not so long ago, decided on the late stop strategy, and Lambrecht, who was the last man to pit, finds himself down in 23rd. So 43 minutes in, it's been all change in pretty much every position except 1st place, and we're still seeing battles right to the end as Mage is absolutely hanging on to the back of Michael Hole, coming through the curve of Misano along the start-finish straight, and that is definitely slipstream mode engaged. Will we see him take a look? No, he is actually a bit further off than I thought. Oh, he does get a tighter line though into turn 1. Better setup for turn 2. The two of them, as we said, you don't want to go side to side in turn 3, and Mage absolutely listened to the commentator's advice and backed right out over there and lines up the move through Rio. Oh, and a bit wide there from Hole, so Mage has got a chance in this left-hander. He can get the foot down, nice even application. We'll see him potentially close the gap a bit here, stuck just on the edge, dips out the slipstream for a bit, has a bit of a look. Both men mounting the curbs in, heavy braking into the left-hander before the curve of Del Rio. They will be looking to get this done. Mage obviously hanging on the back here as we're going to come into Curvone, so if he can get this little complex here on the money, and he absolutely has got a beautiful line there, get the foot down, he'll be looking to close that here, and of course Hole is of course looking at the back of Asterberger now as well. So he'll be looking to hunt that down, so he's in defend and attack mode at the minute. So all kinds of fun for that man here, and 32-degree heat on the Misano track. The track is cooling down slightly, and when I say slightly, 32 degrees is still definitely an optimum driving temperature for these tyres. Maybe a bit squealy on some of the corners, but I'm sure these guys are surviving, and the control that Mage is shown here is beyond impressive here as we sit on top of Bonnet Cam, watching these two cars chase one another around the 2.6 mile Italian beauty that is the Misano track. Of course, for the SOP EVO Challenge, hosted by Sim Grid. Michael's here joining me. We've got Mike, the cameraman, working his magic in the background quite fantastically. And of course, we have all you guys in the chat. So say hi in the chat if you're watching. Let me know who you think's going to win. AKM Racing UK. Number 9K is King Maggie. 2 syllables, King Maggie. Okay, King Maggie. We'll go with that. Commentator is not seeing it. There we go. Yes, I'm seeing it now. Oh, what was this? Okay, yes, so I've just missed it there reading the chat. We are going to bring up a replay to see what happened here. That is Meyer again, I believe. And yeah, so Meyer looks like he's been involved again in that Mercedes. That thing absolutely battered and bruised. Are popping up a replay as I'm just going to quickly hi. Well, we'll say hi in the chat. Here we go. So here's the replay that we've got for you.
So that's the number 33. That's Asta Birawaga. And the number 33.
So they went past the back marker. Heavy. Oh, and he's caught the back marker.
That was McKenna in the 91. So it looked like McKenna was trying to let them go. But
yeah.
To let them go on the exit of on the entrance to this section of the track is not really the most advisable thing to do. And then it looks like Asta Barawaka's just turned in a little bit too early.
Yeah,
a bit silly driving from both drivers there, I think.
Yeah, I think so. That is, yeah, an unfortunate state of events there. It must have been overwhelming. He was about to be blue flagged by 3 people, but as you say, that maybe wasn't the best place.
Not when you've got a long back straight, literally 2 corners away.
Yeah.
You know, just get through that little phase. The right-handers, you might hold them up through that little section. And we were talking before about track limits and drive-throughs. Asta Birawaga not only getting involved in that incident, now picked up a drive-through as well.
Yeah, so as we were saying earlier, I did think that drive-throughs or track limit penalties and the like would play a bit of a part in the end of the race. And as you said, Asta Birawaga there, perhaps not his own fault, falling foul of the incident that he was involved in, but certainly breaching the track limits, finding himself with a drive-through. And as we saw from the pit stops, that's going to absolutely devastate, quite frankly, his finishing position. Unfortunately, the guys are still, for being almost 50 minutes in to this race, we still have a field of 29 drivers who find themselves extremely close. Lambrecht then, the last man to come in the pits, down in 23rd. Still batting the way with Gantus. We've got Egan is down in 21st. We've still got Stempel, Meyer, Ziga looking to overtake one another. Jones, Buck keeping one another honest there in the middle of the field. We're on board with Battenberg then, who is looking to get a move done on Sam Su. So there we go, classic Ferrari on Mercedes action. Of course, we're seeing that all night. It is the EVO Challenge. And lights up the back tyres there, Battenberg. On the Ferrari, makes a mess of the exit at turn 3, finds himself dropping straight off the back into the Curva del Rio. Both men have a half decent line yet. That's a good line through there as they take the left-hander. The back of the Mercedes looked like it stepped out ever so slightly for the Ferrari getting the power down, and we've got a Mercedes that's just run off. Is that Babalul? I think that's Babalul that's just run off. In fact, I think he may be letting through some back markers. So Lambrecht then up to 22nd. So action all over the track, even though we're coming to the end of the race. Although one man has not been involved in any action, of course. Tavernari up at the front, predicted by one of the commentators, the useful commentator, not me, that he would be up at the sharp end of the grid and 30 laps into this race and looking unbelievably comfortable. Michael, your prediction is looking fairly solid at the moment.
Yeah, Luca Tavernari has absolutely bossed this race so far. We saw he started to open a gap within quite a few laps, got the gap up to about 3 seconds. He then dropped off the pace a little bit, but you know, I think he showed that he knew that he's got the pace that he needs, so he can afford to drop it back. We then saw a short 3-way battle for P2 between Foch, Martirek and Jose Georges, and that just allowed the gap just to naturally open up. And then since the pit stop, Luca has just absolutely vanished up the front. He's controlled the race very, very well, and as long as he doesn't make any big mistakes or receive any drive-throughs in the remaining 10 minutes, he should be on his way to a very commanding and deserved win.
I would say so, yep, commanding and deserved. He's taken pole position in the qualifying, and he has absolutely taken the bull by the horns and dragged that Italian stallion from start to finish in very, very impressive and timely fashion. And he's done it with some unbelievably consistent race laps as well. Race consistency, as we were saying, qualifying pace, you and I alluded to it earlier, Michael. Race pace, race setup, race cars are certainly a different animal entirely to be able to set a qualifying lap and do it. But obviously, we see the cars come side by side. Oh, a little bit of contact. Mercedes, you maybe wanted to leave a little bit more room there. Was that a bit of a naughty dive, do we think? I think that was a fair move there. Had the door closed on them, so those two guys, Sam Sue and Battenberg, costing themselves places there as we're on board then with Tavernari, our race leader. And as so often happens in these race events, it's often the person that gets the least camera time due to the fact that there's battling going on, but the level of driving he's showing has been unbelievably consistent, constantly lapping in the 34s, clean as a whistle. Definitely doesn't look like he's pushing that car at all, and will be looking to take his maiden EVO Challenge victory. Of course, it is a 4-week competition, as we see again. Oh, a little bit of contact there between the 199, but yeah, definitely didn't leave, I feel, didn't leave enough room on the inside especially. So that, yeah, that was a blue flag incident, sorry. I'm completely misreading that. That wasn't an overtake, that was a blue flag. So yeah, the Mercedes of, that wasn't Mage, who was it? It was Mayer, sorry. So yes, that was Meyer then. So involved in another little bit of argy-bargy, so definitely not having a races. We've got Jose Georges then, no sorry, the number 5 of Ziga in the Ferrari being lapped as well. So Tavernier really is putting the foot down here. It's the first race of 4, and you've got to think with a performance like this, Michael, this is his championship to lose, never mind race.
Potentially, I mean, this is a track that will favour the Ferrari. Here we see the replay again. So this was Stu in the 55 and Battenberg in the 199. Does look a little bit like they're turning in a little bit too much, closing themselves out and getting themselves hit. Unless I probably would judge that, it'd be hard to say straight away who was at fault. But just looks like a little coming together and just closing the door a little bit too much and causing their own incident from Sue in the 55. I tell you what, well, there's one person on the track right now who I think will be breathing the biggest sigh of relief. Would be Jose Georges, whose gap to Millard was about 17 seconds. When I mentioned it before, the gap was coming down rapidly, about 1.5 seconds per lap, and in the last 3-4 laps, the gap has completely stabilised. It looked like that Millard was going to catch Jose within a few laps, and then all of a sudden any gains have just stopped. So Jose will be taking a big sigh of relief. But coming on to your question, you know, the Ferrari's very strong here. Luca knows into this series, this is the track where the Ferrari's probably the best of the two, and this is the track.
Oh, Sam Sue's lost it. That's one of the corners we mentioned coming through the curve, that little complex, the hairpin into a chicane. Lost the back of the car and finds himself meeting the wall at high speed, and that certainly won't do his aerodynamics much good going into the last 6 minutes. And as you mentioned, we're definitely going to talk about that. Yes, Jose Georges will definitely be breathing a sigh of relief, because as we both pointed out, that certainly could have been a pit strategy that backfired on him massively, taking that pit stop 7 laps earlier than his competitive. Stempel then looking to make a move on Meyer and just compound the misery for that man's race today and deny him this 15th place. Stempel then looking to get up the inside on the Corvone. We're going to see some serious braking action here. The two guys heavy on the brakes, go side by side. Stempel.
It's that corner.
That corner. It's just unbelievable. Meyer then absolutely closes the door when he's got a car side by side, and we see Stempel then in the Ferrari try to rewrite the ship and get it facing the right way and get moving again. But yeah, that is like,
it's like a carbon copy of the incident we saw before. I don't remember who it was between, but basically a carbon copy. This corner is not an overtaking corner.
It's so
Meyer
deceptive,
left it open
Michael.
and inviting. He invited the dive, but you have to turn in there. You know, if you don't swing the car in hard right and turn in, you're just going to end up going straight off into the gravel. So you have to turn in. You can't lunge it down the inside in this corner. Maybe it's an experience thing. Maybe the drivers. It's not often that Misano's really used in ACC, particularly in like public lobbies and things. It's a track that doesn't get much love. So I think a lot of drivers maybe don't have a great deal of experience at this track, meaning they haven't really been able to identify the best and worst places to overtake. But that corner's my number one. Don't do anything. That's my number one. Don't try.
Yeah, it's better to fight another day. As you say, as I said earlier, anyone that's watched me or heard me commentate will constantly hear me say, to finish first, you must first finish. And it is sometimes better to take your nose out of someplace where it could be chopped clean off and keep your nose attached, rather than potentially wrap it round the rear spoiler and exhaust pipe of a competitor and find yourself spending a 15, 20 or 30 minute stint in the pits watching the race unfold. Someone that didn't spend a lot of time in the pits, of course, Luca Tavernari. The guy's not spent a lot of time doing anything other than leading in this race. He has got himself a quite magnificent gap back to his fellow Ferrari in Foch, who finds himself a quite impressive 21 seconds in arrears. So for a 35 lap race to be 21 seconds behind, Taverni really is showing that the Ferrari is the dominant car, and the Ferrari really is the dominant car. It is of course a case of what might have been. Phillips did get himself up into the mix with the Ferraris, and qualifying was involved in a little bit of an incident, and given that he's got this Mercedes back up to 6th place, we've got to say that he is going to be a contender should the Mercedes come across a strong track. He's definitely going to be one to watch.
For sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that this is the track that will favour the Ferrari the most. Monza's kind of balanced between the two, I would say. Maybe the Mercedes has a slight edge. Nürburgring, I don't really know enough about the two cars to really know who's on top. I wouldn't ever say that neither of them are considered the best car at Nürburgring. Who's the best of the two, I don't really know, to be honest with you. I haven't driven them enough to be able to say confidently. I maybe would edge it slightly towards the Mercedes. And Imola 100% is sided towards the Mercedes. The Ferrari can do very quick times there. The reason the Mercedes is so strong at Imola is because the lap time is all about riding the curbs, which is something that the Mercedes can do a lot better and a lot more consistently than the Ferrari can. The Ferrari, all you've got to do is one time you take the curbs at Imola wrong, and then you're off into a wall. So the Ferraris had to have a good strong race here. We could see that with the top 5 being the Mercedes, being all Ferraris. Alex Phillips being the best Mercedes, which I think is a deserved place for him in this race. But he could be strong in the later rounds. I think watch him at Monza and Imola especially. I think we could see him right there fighting for the podium, maybe even fighting for the win.
Yeah, and it would certainly be good to see. Like we say, great drive he's put in today. I'm definitely going to call him as one to watch. This is, of course, a Ferrari strong track, so it will be interesting to see how he does when we get to the tracks that favour the Mercedes. And Battenberg, I was just about to say that, Battenberg,
P10 as well. He
won't be having any cake today because he's getting himself a drive-through, and up in the top 10, and that is going to devastate. If we look down, he's only he's barely 20 seconds ahead of 8 places behind him. So he is going to suffer hugely. As I said at the start, the pit lane here is definitely not the shortest. It's not the longest, but it's definitely not the shortest. You come onto it before you take the last straight, and that drive-through, unfortunately, I think Battenberg's going to find himself with serious problems because Tavernier is on his last lap, so Battenberg could end up with a timed penalty if he can't serve his drive-through if the race is completed. But Tavernier then coming along his last lap, 37 laps in, he took pole position by 3/10. He is taking the bull by the horns and finds himself 24 seconds up the road, and Ziga is looking to get a move done on Buck then. A bit one last Ferrari Mercedes hurrah for us then as we come round into the Curva del Rio. The Ferrari hanging on to the back of the rear spoiler of the Mercedes, and the way this is going, the two of them are going to take this double right-hander. They're going to come onto the Corvone, Michael, and they're going to come towards our favourite corner here. Will we see race IQ of above 150 from these guys as they come along the Corvone here? Over the right-hand kink, absolutely flat out. The Ferrari is definitely in a tight position. We've seen moves made before. Thinks better of it though. Tucks in beautifully behind, looking to make a move perhaps up the inside here round the last
on
corner.
The final corner, John.
And that is, yes, Tavernari then comes over the line. An absolutely dominant performance there from Tavernari. 38 laps strong. Leads from start to finish. Pole to the pit stops and then beyond. Foch then will take second place as we see the battle between Ziga and Buck heating up nicely. Battenberg does have, he's been given a 30-second penalty because he didn't serve his drive-through, so he is going to lose places as cars come across the line. Malchirek then will take third place, and Jose Georges, a very, very relieved Ferrari driver indeed, will take himself fourth, with Malardi in fifth, and Phillips, who started in fifth but is the lead at Mercedes, so can certainly take comfort in the performance that he put in, finding himself all the way back up into sixth. King Mage then making good moves up in seventh with Ivanusa in eighth, Mikhail Hole in ninth, and Jones has been promoted to 10th. We'll see if Battenberg loses any more places. He is currently sitting in 11th with Buck in 12th, Ziga in 13th, Myers in 14th, O'Neill is in 15th, Solkrom is in 16th, Stempel in 17th, Astaberga down in 18th place, Hake is in 19th with Egan in 20th, Lambrecht in 21st with Sue in 22nd, Gantus in 23rd, Babulal down in 24th after an unfortunate pit incident.
Oh,
McKenna,
John, that was
yes.
Ivanusa. He's not taken the checkered flag yet. He's run out of fuel on the final lap.
Wow.
From P9. He's out of fuel. He's gonna be a DNF.
It's going to be a DNF. Wow, that is unbelievable.
From P9. That's gutting.
That really is devastating. After that performance, to get it into the top 10.
There he is. He's basically stuck on the grass, just rolling. Nathaniel Ivanusa. All his points from P9 lost. And he'll go down as a DNF because he didn't take the checkered flag.
Wow. Well, there we go. High drama indeed, right to the end. So even this, so that's going to make the second week of the championship even more interesting. We've got a guy with no points who's capable of taking 9th place. So an incredible end there. Drive-through penalties not served. We had the driver disqualified. Drive-through penalty not served with a 30-second time penalty run out, and we have had a driver run out of fuel. Never let it be said that motorsport is boring. It certainly is not. Of course, this was the SOP Motorsport EVO Challenge hosted by SimGrid, with Michael here joining me for some banter in the comedy box, and Mike doing the camera work in the background as we'll look at a replay of the start. And it was an unbelievable race there, Michael, and to say there was drama from start to finish is certainly not an understatement.
That was a really race. Really enjoyed it. Luca commanded it from the front, doing a fantastic drive. Just a shame that the battle, that three-way battle that we saw brewing for P2 between Foch, Maltarek and Jose Georges, shame that battle didn't get to last much longer.
Materialise, yeah.
About a lap or so. It kind of built up and then fizzled out. Which is a bit of it. That would be my only disappointment from this race. Other than that, it was a fantastic race, some really good battles, and hopefully some drivers have learned not to try and send it down and make an overtake at T13 because it doesn't work.
And we have actual documented evidence to back up that statement, Michael. So yeah, definitely, kids, if you're learning the sim race, learn Misano. and where you can and can't overtake. So yeah, a fantastic race. Battles, as we said, there was places changing hands all over the track except for Tarvanare up in the lead. The only time he didn't lead the race was during the pit stops, and even once the pit stops came out, he got first place back under his control without the lead driver even pitting. So no time wasted by him, taking advantage of the Ferrari dominance here at the 2.6 mile Misano track in the opening exchanges of the EVO Challenge. As we're watching some of the action here played back from Mike, our ever trusty cameraman, who's done an unbelievable job. So if you're in the chat, by the way, I want you to say, everyone in the chat that's from SOP, I want you to say a massive thank you to Mike and Michael, aka Mr. Simgrid, sorry, for hosting us this evening. Of course, you all know, all you guys in the chat, you're all usually on the console, listening to me on Twitch, or in fact laughing at me as I'm on track with you guys. But we are being hosted on the PC, because as you know, we do have some of you guys that like PCs. So we thought we'd showcase it out here. So say hi to Michael and Mike, say a big and massive SOP thank you to them as well. We do have 3 more races to come in the series: Imola, the Nürburgring, and Monza. That's right, 35 cars split between Ferrari and Monza, flying into turn 1 at Monza. What more could you possibly ask for? Guys in the chat, great commentary and general broadcast, boys. I mean, to be fair, the broadcast was fantastic. One of the commentators was useless, he wouldn't shut up, and the one that he knew what he was talking about said interesting stuff in between. So yeah, Yoka-chan, hello.
Credit, John. Give yourself credit.
Yeah, a little bit of credit, but definitely not a lot tonight. Vince, you're welcome. Bad Bull, thank you. Baggy, yes. Yoka-chan, yes. You also got in the chat. Come on, guys, say hi in the chat. Everyone say hello. Oh, there's Buck in the chat as well. Great race tonight. We hope you all enjoyed it and had a fantastic evening. Let me just have a look at this. So yeah, so we'll get the race results back up for you to have a quick look at before we sign off and disappear, and I go have a lie down in a darkened room with a hot chocolate that may or may not contain a slight drop of glava. So yeah, so here we go, having a quick look. So yeah, as I say, it's the SOP Motorsport, it is the EVO Challenge. We will be back next Wednesday at 8 o'clock to bring you more of the action from these 32, hopefully all 35 drivers next week, and hopefully Omar can learn to take his drive-through penalties and we won't have quite so much action at the end with drive-throughs and disqualifications. But we'll certainly be looking forward to getting on with the job of bringing you guys some fantastic racing. As you see, oh, that's George's Ferrari there. We're seeing the number 78 getting himself involved. So yeah, some beautiful replay action here as well. Absolutely loving this. Simon, are you in the chat, by the way? You not racing, John? You're signed up. I was supposed to be racing this evening, mate, but I mistimed things for tonight's broadcast. I got myself a bit confused a couple of days ago. So I am due to be racing with you guys at 10 o'clock tonight, but I'm not sure if I'm going to make the start of practice or quali, but I will, fingers crossed, be in the race with you boys very, very soon. So yeah, thank you for the reminder, and be gentle with me when we're on track later, if you don't mind. I've not had a lot of practice in the new Ferrari, so yeah, you'll need to take it easy on me. I'm not even sure yet. So we're racing Misano, but where will I not be doing any overtakes this evening, Michael?
10:30.
Boom, you read my mind. That's twice tonight you've predicted things. I'm surprised you've not won the lottery yet, mate. That's you may have won championships back in your TZR days. But still not quite cracked the lottery yet. So yeah, so there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Rookie Monsters team. Certainly wasn't a rookie performance tonight from Tavernare. Took pole position by an impressive 3/10. And I say impressive because the 6 cars behind them could only be separated by a further 2/10. We then had a nice close group in the middle, but it was Tavernare who took the clear track at the front. 37 laps later, emerged victorious with Foch in second place, Malcherek in third, Jose Georges in fourth, and Mallardi making up the top 5. Phillips then be slightly disappointed to find himself down in 6th, with King Mage or McGee, sorry, King McGee. I do apologise, I've been pronouncing that wrong all night. But with a Scottish accent, apparently I get away with it. I keep getting told that, so there we go. Mikhail Hole then was in 8th with the Ivanusa in 9th, and Jones takes our final top 10 position. So these guys will definitely be looking to advance up the championship next week. Buck, Ziga, Meyer, O'Neill and Solkrom 11 through 15, with Battenberg down in 16th, Stempel in 17th, Asterberger is in 18th with H in 19th, Egan then down in 20th. I think we slightly disappointed with that, with Lambrecht in 21st, Sue involved in some incidents, had to pit for some damage, down in 22nd, and Gantus in 23rd. So that is the top 23 drivers who we will see next week. We do have a few more. Where did my friend Solkrom finish? So Homeschool Racer in the Rinaldi, he did finish in 15th, so well done Homeschool. If you're watching this back, congratulations mate on your inaugural televised race. As we said, we had Gantus down in 23rd. We've got Babadool, who did have problems with his pit stop. His pit stop didn't register, so he had to pit twice. He is down in 24th, with McKenna finishing the race in 25th. Boychuk took 26th with Ligerston in 27th. Plotz was in 28th, and Klokhanvovsky finished in 29th, with Omar being disqualified. So sorry, who was it that ran out of fuel again? I've been so excited. Who was it that ran out of fuel?
It was Ivanusa, but he's still showing there in his P9
yes,
in the standings.
His P9.
So I don't know. Maybe somehow it's counted, but he was stuck on the straight and didn't have a checkered flag. But maybe there was an error on the game side, possibly. But we'll find out when we upload the result file up onto the website. We'll be able to see what the either there's a UI glitch and it's not showing the checkered flag, but he had taken it. But we'll see. We'll know by the next round.
Yes, indeed. So, as I mentioned, it's Wednesday night, it's SOP. We will be back next Wednesday for the second week of the championship. The Ferrari versus EVO battle will continue on screen for you. I will be back to present to you and bring you all the action. Michael may or may not be in the room with me, but Michael, thank you very much for joining me tonight, and especially thank you for allowing us at SOP to use your facilities to bring the world our PC drivers. So thank you very much for that.
Hey, most welcome. It was great fun being in the comms box with you. Great race, and I'm not available next week. Maybe that's a good thing because it's Monza, and Monza always scares me. So.
It's certainly not for the faint of heart. And of course, a mega thank you to our cameraman and production genius in the background, making this all look amazing and me seem semi-competent, as of course Mike as well. So thank you very much to him. Thank you to Simon, who puts all this on and runs SOP, and we will see you again. I'll be back on Saturday for some endurance racing with you guys on Twitch. I'll be on track as well, and I'll be back on track in 15 minutes to take part in a 1 hour Mazzano race myself. So from myself at SOP and everyone here at SimGrid, thanks very much for joining us this evening, and we will see you again hopefully next week. Thanks very much and good night.